Hi everyone, my name is Brennan Lafferty. I'm the publisher of Plastics News. I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Conversations with Plastics News. With me, my guest, Mr. Troy Nix, Executive Director of MAPP. Welcome, Troy.
Thanks a lot, Brennan. It's great to be here today.
Troy is probably the most enthusiastic person walking the floor here in Orlando today.
Nice.
So Troy, when you're walking around and let's say you bump into a processor, you get to talk to him, he says, I want to join MAPP. Why would someone join MAPP today?
First of all, I love the question. For almost 18 years now, selling the first membership in the organization, it's grown a lot. And I would say, first and foremost, to senior level executives, that MAPP is truly a professional development tool for their staffs. And we do an inordinate amount of benchmarking. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is that when it comes down to being competitive in the industry, competitiveness comes with how well your staff can function. And so we link staffs together. We link the people together and we help them to become better, improve their industry knowledge, improve their professional knowledge so they can function better. And in addition to that, we hold a lot of different conferences and events, and we have a lot of affinity programs that help with the bottom line profitability of organizations.
Interesting. So I know one of our editors was recently in Albion, Michigan at Team One Plastics, where you hosted an event there. Is that some of the type of networking and staff-to-staff collaboration that you were talking about?
Yeah, most definitely. So 3 times a year, we get with one of our member companies, and the concept is that we believe that to improve your own process, if you see another's process, it's much, much different, right? So you can definitely build on other people's knowledge bases and then come back and improve your own process. And so what we do is we'll go into another member company, they'll open their doors, and it's just not a aisle tour. When we get into the guts of the company, the senior executive team will talk about how they do business. And you know something? It's amazing when people talk just about how they do business and others can learn from how I do business versus how you do business.
Right.
So we'll go into that, and then we actually have different stations on the tour floor, on the floor. And then each member company will take off their company hat and put on a consultant hat for the day. And when they do that, they're going through, and it's their responsibility to provide feedback to the member company on great ideas that they're doing that, hey, I'm going to walk away with this, and then ideas of opportunity for improvement. And so at the end of the day, we basically put all these ideas together and give the host company a USB and say, here it is. Now you have something to work with to make your company better. That is truly a membership community there in terms of people coming together to help each other become more competitive.
So I can tell you've been to many processors, been to many plants. In your mind, what separates an average processor, and I'm not talking about dollar levels here, revenue, an average processor from a great processor?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have a couple hours, right? On this one?
Yeah, go ahead and go. Get some coffee.
There we go. You know something, last night I had the opportunity to address a small group, and I talked about that very same question. If I were holding a benchmarking conference today and you gave me 5 minutes to talk, I would say that there's 2 major things that come out of this. And I think the first and foremost that drives everything else in your company is all about your culture. You know, these great machines and great technology and whatever, 1 million, 2 million, 3 million square feet of exhibitor space here.
Right.
But really, what separates your company from everybody else, your guts. Because people can't copy your guts. It's impossible. And so that culture then, if you have the right culture, then enables people to get involved in the continuous improvement activities, the lean manufacturing activities, giving them the authority to go out and do things on their own. Culture will beat anything, anytime, day or night. And then going along with the culture, I think moving forward in the future is that we are doing well as an industry right now. One of the things I was going to say is we just recently did our economic study and state of the business. And the highest rate we've ever had in terms of, we had about 170 executives just fill out this little 33-question survey. And one of the things that they indicated is that 85% of those executives said, in the next year, my sales level is going to be much different in a positive way than it is today. They've been saying that now for 4 years, which is really good, right? But now that times are good, it's time to invest in the people. Because if you have the right culture and you have the skill set that is much different than anybody else's, then you begin to create that gap of competitiveness. So it's right there, Brennan. It's right there, and you can't copy it.
Amen. So you mentioned people. Makes me think of talent, millennials, the next generation coming in. Processors that I talk to, equipment manufacturers that I talk to, don't have the people coming into their business that they would like to have, that they need to have. What are you hearing from processors? Who are the ones who are successful in attracting some young talent, and what are they doing? What can other processors and manufacturers do to copy that?
Yeah, first of all, this is a nationwide, it's a global problem.
Yeah.
You go to China, you go to Korea, you go to the United States.
Right.
You know, it is getting youth into the industry. In fact, when you poll our membership base, we've got about 350 members right now. If you poll the membership base, it is the #1 issue. Yeah. But they use different terms to talk about it.
Right.
And I would say that what we're seeing is that you have to have a business strategy that includes the development of talent locally. You have to. And if you're not expending resources to do it, you're going to talk about this problem continually, 10 years, 20 years. Right. It's never going to go away.
Is an apprentice program in the States part of the solution?
I would like to even back it up further and just say attraction, the positioning of our industry versus all the other career opportunities that one has once they get that diploma.
Yeah.
And yeah, you know, college is very important, but there are a lot of kids out there that college doesn't necessarily suit them. That should be one of our targeted audience right there. And when they come out of the school systems, they should think about our processors in the local community. They should really think it should be automatic to them. Yeah. And so what I'm seeing very good processors are doing is they're starting to get very, very active locally. And there's a lot that you can do: school board participation, career day participation, opening up your plants, working with the students. I tell you, we have an event coming up in May at Intertech Plastics in Denver, Colorado. Noel Ginsberg is the president and the owner. And I think he has an amazing solution right now. He's got about a 30-page document that is showing the processes and the steps that he's taken to get the governor of Colorado, the local school systems, the local businesses involved in manufacturing to say this is important to us. And now they have this exchange that's starting to occur where kids are coming out of the school system saying, wow, that would be a cool place to work. Yeah. That's the ticket right there. And we have to do it. We have to act locally to solve this global problem.
Yep, a lot of grassroots work.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
And you know something, the interesting thing is it doesn't pay off quickly.
No.
So it's hard when you're spending all the resources and sometimes the money.
Sure.
In order to develop this local system, you're looking at several years.
Yeah.
But you do that time and time again, and you get other businesses involved. That's the way to solve the workforce issue.
A long-term play for sure.
Most definitely.
So, any other trends, any other problems, issues that you're hearing from processors that could discuss?
So when we did our survey, the state of the industry, we rank ordered the problems. Obviously, workforce development, attracting talent was one of them. And by the way, one of the reasons, and Plastics News is great, why you want to be on the cover of Plastics News and get your company out there that says this is one of the best places to work. One of the reasons to do that is that the more you have media in your favor, the more that you can attract top talent. Yeah. Even we're talking kids, we're talking senior level professionals. That's very key in and of itself. So I just want to hit that in terms of culture and getting out there, being a top-notch company.
Yep.
But if you look at the problems associated with what this industry is looking at right now, and I've talked to tons of processors in the last couple of days, which is why I'm losing my voice. But if you rank order the problems, right up in the top 5 is the term growth. And sometimes growth, like in the 2007, 8, and 9, you knew what growth was. Growth was I need to diversify my customer base, I need to find new customers. Right. But growth has a different terminology now because there are a lot, like I said, over the last several years, I'm going to be better than I was the year before, and it's happening. Yeah. So now I'm finding a lot of processors saying, we got to step back a little bit. This is a major issue because what they've done is they've added a lot of people. And when you add a lot of people in a very quick format, then sometimes training suffers. And when training suffers, then that affects quality, it affects scrap. So that's one of the things that we're seeing right now is people want new business, but they're also putting the brakes on a little bit. It's like, I don't know if we can handle anymore. And growth will kill you faster than not having customers, right? Yeah. Cash flow and everything like that.
Sure.
So I'm seeing that as an issue. And if you think about that, that ties right in with another thing that came out in the state of the industry, and that's the fact that people know they have to get better, but when they're going through this incredible flux, it's hard to get better and just sustain. So they're looking at improvements. You know, how do we continue our lean? How do we continue to adopt automation? How do we continue to train? And that's one of the things I sent a message out last night, is we have to train. It's one of those things where when we talk to our people, when we bring our organizations together, you can never over-communicate. I believe, from a military background, you can never overtrain. You can never overtrain.
Sure.
And now, I mean, there's I don't want to say there's excess assets in the industry, but our companies are doing better, and we need to pump some of that into developing the skills and knowledge base of our people. Most definitely.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about end markets. If someone's coming to you, your organization, and they're in automotive, but they're thinking about medical, how do you advise?
Yeah. Great question. Great question. I say go talk to the consultants that have all the data. No.
Right.
So one of the things that we've studied is in 2015, those that are serving the automotive sector, they're doing well right now.
Yeah, they are.
As a matter of fact, we asked the question, so what's going to be the most optimistic market for 2015? And it was automotive.
Yeah.
Least optimistic market, defense. And that's kind of obvious if you think about it. But what I hear oftentimes is, I'm 100% automotive, my systems are automotive, my processes are automotive, I'm staying in automotive. And those that think of dabbling in other industries, I think it all is based on how you've developed your internal processes, and understanding that when you step into that medical marketplace, everything changes. And it doesn't mean that you can't do it, just understand that everything changes relative to process and procedures and sometimes training associated with it. So making that step, and I encourage people to do it and look at it, but you also have to be focused on what you're good at. You can't be good at all things to all people.
Sure.
Obviously.
Yep. So you've been, how many NPEs is this for you?
I think it's like my second. No, I think this is my eighth in total.
Eighth NPE.
Yes.
What's the vibe you've been picking up? What has caught your eyes? You've walked through the halls or maybe had dinner with people over this past week. What's Troy Nix hearing?
Well, I'll tell you, I talked to Bill Carteau last night.
Yeah.
And I think Bill's done a fabulous job. He has a vision of growing, you know, if you look at the numbers, where we are, I think today, he said 65,000 last night.
Yeah.
But if you go back into, I think, 08 and 09, you know, when we started, or maybe even earlier than that, Brennan, the numbers were a little bit higher than that, maybe in the 80,000s. I think we're going to get back there. We're definitely going to get back there. The overall feeling right now is, first of all, the show's been very good for people. But secondly is businesses are strong. And just like in our state in the industry, things are strong. And I always tell people, you know, you have to have that gut feel for what's happening, and the gut feel is very positive out there. So if your business isn't doing well right now, I think you have to have an inward focus in terms of, why isn't my business doing well? And what's going on? And that's where, and I want to talk a little bit about the sense of community. And I told Bill last night that our industry is a community, and the community is here in these two buildings. And what MAPP and what we do is we have a subset of that community. And I told him, I said, going forth, if you're not a member of a community, that, yeah, you can do it on your own, but we think now of crowdsourcing for the development of solutions when you have internal challenges. And the way our organization is actually set up is that if you have a problem, and it might be an immediate one, I mean, if you go to the MAPP website right now, in the last day and a half, I've had 6 companies post a need for material. I need 55 pounds of X. And that's a crowdsourcing thing, because the entire organization knows that, and you have 55 pounds of that X, and you know somebody needs it, then we encourage. I'm kind of a preacher, you know? You help a man today, that help will come back tenfold, right?
Hallelujah.
And so give up the 55-pound bag, because you too will be in that situation. So that community development aspect, if you're running a company, you got to get your people out. You can't think that nobody else is doing it like you, because I hate to tell you, everybody's doing it like you. Because it comes down to your guts and your heart. That's it.
You mentioned the State of the Industry report that you produce. How does someone get a hold of that if they want? Is it available only to MAPP members?
No. Actually, if go to www.mappinc.com, there's a quick email that you just send out, and bam, you'll have it in your email box.
Wonderful. Any last remarks you'd like to make about MAPP and what's on the horizon in the next couple months?
Well, it's interesting. If I go back 8 MPEs, when I was walking the show for the first time, and I didn't know an injection mold. I came from the extrusion industry, so we were, I was making plastic bags. Yeah. And when I was young, and I was in mobile chemical at the time, I didn't know there was another process. I'd never been to an NPE. I thought extrusion was plastics. And this blows your mind, right? So I look at that and I look at the progression. I look at the progression of Plastics News, and and I told you briefly that the magazine is doing an incredible job of covering what's happening. And I think in our progression as an organization, we are definitely getting larger. Mm-hmm. I think we have members now in 38 different states. We have pockets, and those pockets of members are working with one another to better their companies, mm-hmm. right, to compete. And what I see going forward is in our organization is building on the crowdsourcing idea. Yeah. And we're developing that right now. How do we take tremendous amounts of data? As an example, we had a senior executive, he's a company owner, Metro Plastics, came in our booth the other day, and he said he stopped by a 10 by 10 booth, and I'm not gonna get this right, so I won't get into the details, sure. But he said, I saw something so simple, but so ingenious, and we deal with the problem every day in maintenance, and we're gonna get it. And I looked at Lindsay and I said, my gosh, I said, can you imagine the number of people that had seen something else, mm-hmm. but you'll never see it because you can't humanly cover this in a day or 5 days or even probably a month. And so our idea was the fact that we get our members sitting around the table, mm-hmm. and they say, what are the top 3 things that you saw that you're gonna immediately implement in your company? Bam, now I have 50 sets of eyes, yep. or 100 sets of eyes on the floor. So for us, that's crowdsourcing. It's connecting everybody's brains, and every time a new member comes in, I get excited because it's more brain power. Mm-hmm. And that means members have an opportunity to connect and to tap into more brain power. And in this day and age, that's the ticket right there.
Amen.
Yep.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, we've been listening to Troy Nix, Executive Director of MAPP and Crowdsourcing Fanatic. Troy, thanks for being here.
Thank you very much. It's been awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for watching another episode of Conversations with Plastics News.